playfully called him weak in front of my friends and said he should watch me in the corner. Hey Reddit. First of all, not my first time posting here, but I'm using a throwaway account because I really don't want this tied to my main. You know how it is when you're airing out your personal life. No need for everyone to connect the dots. For the sake of privacy, I'm going to call myself Emma and my husband Ray. So, a little background. I'm a 29-year-old woman, and Ray, my husband, is 28. We've known each other for what feels like forever, actually since high school. We met when I was 17 and he was 16, and it was like this immediate connection. You hear people say love at first sight a lot, and for Ray, it was exactly that. He was head over heels for me from the moment we met. Honestly, it was almost overwhelming at first. The way he looked at me, the way he hung on my every word. But slowly, I fell for him too, and we've been together ever since. We dated all through high school and into college. It was never even a question of us breaking up or growing apart like you hear about with other couples. We just always knew we were meant to be together. Everyone called us the couple. You know, the ones everyone assumes are going to end up married, have kids, the whole thing. And they weren't wrong. Ray proposed to me about 3 years ago, and we got married 2 years ago. Since then, life has been good. At least I thought so. Ray has always been the romantic one in our relationship. He's the guy who brings home flowers randomly, the one who plans date nights, and the one who always asks if I need anything, whether it's a cup of coffee in the morning or a shoulder to lean on when things are tough. He's the type of husband who's always there, and I never had to worry about him not showing up for me. He loves me to bits, and trust me, I know it. Ray's the type of man who would bend over backward for me without thinking twice. I'm serious. He wouldn't even hesitate. Whether it's something small like changing plans last minute because I don't feel like going out, or something bigger like taking on extra shifts to pay for that vacation I wanted. He's always been the one making the sacrifices in this relationship, and honestly, I've always been okay with that. Here's the thing though, I'm not exactly *that romantic. Sure, I love him too, but I've always been more of the laid-back one in our relationship. Ray's the one who does the grand gestures, and I've never really felt the need to match that level of effort. He just does it because he loves me, and I appreciate it. I've never had to work hard to keep him happy or make him feel special because he's always the one doing it for both of us. I'm a stay-at-home wife, which is something Ray and I both agreed on when we got married. I know some people might raise an eyebrow at that, but it works for us. Ray's always been a hard worker, and he's been providing for us since the beginning. He loves his job, and he's proud to be the breadwinner. I, on the other hand, take care of the house and everything that comes with it. Honestly, I've been perfectly happy with the way things have been. I get to live a comfortable life, and Ray gets to play the role he's always loved, provider and protector. I guess the thing is, though, sometimes I may have taken that for granted. The issue is, Ray has always been a little too weak, in my opinion. I know that sounds harsh, but if I'm being honest here, that's just how I've always seen him. He's not your typical guy, you know? Not the kind of man that commands a room or oozes confidence. He's never been the type to take charge or stand up for himself, at least not in the way I would have expected from a normal man. I guess that's something I started noticing more after we got married. When we first met, I thought it was cute that he was more on the nerdy side. He wasn't like the jocks or the bad boys most girls swoon over. Ray was different. He was sweet, quiet, thoughtful. But as time went on, that softness started to feel less like a positive trait and more like weakness. I'm not trying to shit on him, to be honest. I know it sounds bad, but it's the truth. Ray's always been more into things like comic books, video games, and board games with his friends than anything else. He's the kind of guy who would rather spend his Saturday night watching a new Marvel movie than, say, going out and partying or doing something more manly or adventurous. He's not the type to get his hands dirty with car repairs or have some big group of friends that he's the life of the party with. He's more of a loner, kind of introverted, and more interested in tech and gadgets than in sports or the typical guy stuff. And that's okay, I guess. It's who he is. But as we settled into our marriage, I found myself getting a little frustrated with it. It's like I wanted him to be stronger somehow, to have a bit more edge, I wanted him to be more assertive, to take control of things sometimes, but that just wasn't who he was. Ray's always been more of a people pleaser, especially with me. He never wanted to argue or push back, even if I was being unreasonable. He'd always just go along with whatever I said, trying to make me happy. After a while, I think I started seeing that as a kind of weakness. He wasn't like other men I saw, the ones who could stand their ground or handle things with a little more grit. Instead, he was this overly accommodating, soft-hearted guy who just wanted to make sure I was okay all the time. And maybe it's because of that I fell into the habit of mocking him for it. It wasn't intentional at first. It started out as playful teasing. You know, making fun of him for spending hours setting up his Dungeons & Dragons campaigns with his friends, or calling him a nerd when he'd get overly excited about some new tech gadget he bought. I thought it was harmless, just some banter between us. But looking back, I can see how that teasing turned into something more toxic. I started making little digs at him more and more, both in private and sometimes even in front of other people. It became a habit. Like if he couldn't open a jar, or if something broke around the house, I'd laugh and say something like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll take care of it, since you're not exactly Mr. Fix-It, are you?" Or if he hesitated about making a decision, I'd roll my eyes and be like, "Come on, Ray, you're such a pushover sometimes." I didn't really mean it in a hurtful way, or at least I didn't think I did at the time, but the more I said it, the more I realized it was eroding his confidence little by little. The worst part, I wasn't just doing it in private. I started making fun of him in front of our friends too. If we were hanging out and someone brought up something physical, like sports or fixing cars, I'd chime in with something like, "Yeah, Ray wouldn't know the first thing about that," and laugh it off like it was no big deal. The thing is, Ray would just laugh along, like it didn't bother him. But I could see it in his eyes. It did bother him. It hurt him. But I didn't stop. I guess, in a weird way, I thought it was fine because he loved me so much. I honestly didn't think it would push him away. I figured he'd never leave me no matter what I said or did. He was so in love with me that he would just take it, right? I was the one who held the power in our relationship, and I knew it. Ray was always the one bending over backward to make sure I was happy, and I guess I got a little too comfortable with that. It's not like I was outright cruel to him. At least I didn't think so at the time. But I can see now that I wasn't exactly being the best partner either. I was poking at his insecurities, and I did it so often that it became normal to me. I stopped seeing him as this strong, capable man, and instead I just saw him as someone who was always there to cater to my needs. And that's something I took advantage of. Now that I'm looking back on it, I realize that I've been pushing him down for years, and at the time, I thought he'd just keep taking it because he loved me. But, well, I guess love has its limits. Honestly, I'm even surprised that Ray didn't get tired of me sooner. Looking back now, I realize how much I shit on him for just about everything. And when I say everything, I mean it. Nothing was off limits. His sensitivity, the way he'd worry about his job, his physical appearance, his interests, his hobbies, all of it became fair game for my mockery. I'd pick at him for being too sensitive, always quick to get emotional or stressed out over little things. I'd say things like, "God, Ray, why do you have to be so dramatic all the time?" Or, "You worry too much, just man up." His job was another thing I'd constantly criticize him about. He works in cybersecurity, which I guess is a perfectly respectable job, but it's not the kind of job you associate with manly men, if you know what I mean. He would sometimes talk about how tough things were at work, or how stressed he was about his company restructuring or laying people off. And instead of supporting him, I'd dismiss his worries, telling him to stop whining or making sarcastic comments like, "Oh, poor Ray, stressed out because of his computer job, must be so tough sitting at a desk all day." Then there were his physical insecurities. Ray's always been on the thinner side, not exactly the muscular, athletic type. I mean, I don't mind it now, but at some point I started using that as ammunition too. I'd make little digs about how he wasn't as built as other guys, or joke that he'd never be able to lift me if I fell or something. I once even said something like, "Maybe you should hit the gym with Mike. He might teach you a thing or two about looking like a man." And I said that in front of Mike, by the way, one of Ray's friends who's built like a linebacker. Ray just laughed it off at the time, but I knew it stung. His preferences and interests were another target for my constant teasing. Ray's hobbies are pretty geeky, I guess. He's into things like gaming, reading fantasy novels, watching anime, and of course his beloved Dungeons and Dragons nights with his friends. I never really had an issue with that stuff when we first got together, but as time went on, I found myself getting annoyed by how into it he was. It wasn't manly in the traditional sense. It wasn't the kind of stuff you picture a guy obsessing over. I started making fun of it more and more. Every time he'd mention something about a new game or an episode he watched, I'd roll my eyes and say, "Oh, here we go again, nerd alert," or, "Why don't you grow up and do something that actually matters for once?" He'd just laugh it off as usual, but I knew I was cutting deep. I could see it in his face. He'd shrink a little every time I said something, but he never fought back. He just took it. What made it worse, though, was how I did this everywhere. Literally everywhere. I didn't just keep these jabs and insults behind closed doors. No, I did it in front of his friends, in front of my friends, at social events, at parties, anywhere. I had this nasty habit of embarrassing him publicly, but it wasn't even something I was fully aware of at the time. I just thought I was being funny or sarcastic, but it was cruel. There were plenty of times when we'd be out with friends, and I'd make some comment like, "Oh, Ray, he doesn't even know how to change a tire. I'm the one who had to call roadside assistance last time." Or, "Yeah, Ray would totally crumble if he had to deal with the kind of pressure your husband deals with, Sarah. You're so lucky you have a real man at home." The worst part is, I'd say this stuff to my girlfriends, in front of Ray, without even batting an eye. I didn't stop to think about how humiliating that must have been for him, sitting there while I compared him to other guys who were more manly or more capable in my eyes. It's not like Ray didn't notice. He noticed. I could see it on his face every time I said something that cut him down. But as usual, he didn't say anything. He would just sit there, smile politely, and laugh along like it didn't hurt him. But it did. I could see it, and yet I kept doing it. At the time, I didn't think much of it. In my mind, I was just teasing him. But now I realized that I was belittling him constantly, whether it was intentional or not. The thing is, I thought I had Ray wrapped around my finger. I never imagined he'd leave or get fed up with me. I thought his love for me would always be enough to keep him around, no matter how much I pushed him or mocked him. I figured, hey, he loves me, right? He'll take whatever I throw at him because he's too weak to leave me. But I was wrong. I'm still shocked that he stuck around for as long as he did, considering how often I tore him down. I mean, what kind of person does that to someone who loves them so much? Someone who would do anything for them? But I guess, in my mind, I had convinced myself that it was okay because I didn't really think of Ray as strong enough to leave me. I thought his weakness would keep him by my side forever. I started to notice that Ray was acting kind of distant. At first it was subtle, small things that I didn't really think much of. He wasn't as talkative as he used to be, and when we were home together, he seemed distracted. He'd sit on his phone more often, scroll through social media or watch videos, and barely engage in conversation unless I started it. I remember thinking it was just work stress, or maybe something was going on with his friends that he didn't feel like discussing. But as time went on, it became more obvious that something was off. Ray started coming home later than usual. He would give me a quick kiss when he got home, say he was tired, and go straight to the shower or head to bed. Before, we used to have long conversations after work, talk about our day, and even sit down to watch a show or two together. Now, it felt like he was making excuses to avoid spending time with me. He'd say he was exhausted or he had some late-night work to catch up on, and I just shrugged it off. At the time, I didn't really think anything of it. I didn't even comprehend that Ray, the man who had always loved me so deeply, could possibly be avoiding me on purpose. The idea of him intentionally distancing himself from me was so foreign that it didn't even cross my mind. After all, this was Ray, the guy who had been obsessed with me since high school, the one who would do anything for me, no matter what. So instead of assuming that there was a problem between us, I thought it had to be something else. Maybe he was going through a rough patch at work, or he was stressed about something he didn't feel like sharing. I never thought that I might be the reason for his sudden change in behavior. In fact, I didn't give it much thought at all. I figured whatever it was, he'd tell me when he was ready. Ray wasn't the type to keep secrets from me, at least not that I thought. So I just left it at that, didn't push, didn't ask too many questions. I was comfortable in the belief that whatever was going on, it wasn't about us. It couldn't be. Ray loved me too much, and in my mind, there was no way he'd ever distance himself from me. It was almost like I had this blind confidence in our relationship. I had convinced myself that no matter what I said or did, Ray would always be there, waiting for me with open arms. So, even when he was becoming more and more withdrawn, I still didn't connect the dots. I didn't think it had anything to do with how I treated him, or the constant mocking. That wasn't even a possibility in my head. In fact, when I noticed he was being distant, I would sometimes joke about it, teasing him with things like, "What's wrong, Ray? You're not falling out of love with me, are you?" Or, "You're so quiet lately. Don't tell me you've got another woman." I said it all playfully, of course, not even realizing how out of touch I was with the reality of what was happening. Looking back now, it's painfully obvious that Ray was going out of his way to avoid me. He wasn't just tired or stressed, he was tired of me. The small cracks in our relationship were starting to show, and I didn't see them at all. I didn't recognize the signs that he was pulling away because, in my head, I was still in control. I believed that no matter how much I mocked him or belittled him, Ray would never leave me or even think about putting distance between us. And that's where I was so wrong. I underestimated him. I underestimated his strength, his feelings, and how much my behavior was affecting him. But back then, I didn't see any of that. I was too wrapped up in my own world, too sure of my own power over him, to even imagine that Ray, sweet, devoted Ray, could be slipping away from me. So instead of addressing it or trying to understand what was really happening, I just ignored it. I assumed everything would go back to normal on its own, that whatever was bothering him would pass. I thought, it's Ray. He's always been there, and he always will be. I had no idea that his distance was a warning sign, that things were starting to unravel, and by the time I realized it, it was already too late. Well, everything came to a head at a friend's birthday party. It started off like any other celebration, good food, drinks, laughter, and everyone in high spirits. After the official party wrapped up, a few of us decided to continue the night and head to a bar for more drinks. Ray and I were there with a few of our close friends, and as usual, after a few too many drinks, I let my guard down and started running my mouth. You know how alcohol works? It amplifies everything. And for me, it amplified my tendency to mock Ray. I started laying into him, just like I always did, without thinking twice about it. At first, it was playful jabs, laughing with my friends about how Ray was always so sensitive and nerdy. They laughed too, probably because they didn't know what else to do, but I didn't care. I just kept going, letting the alcohol loosen my tongue. I told them, in a half-joking, half-serious way, that Ray was so weak he wouldn't even do anything if he caught me with another man. I said, Ray's the type of guy who'd probably just watch from the corner and do nothing. I didn't even notice how quiet he had become, sitting there in the booth, staring into his drink. I was too caught up in the attention, in getting those cheap laughs from my friends. They chuckled awkwardly, probably uncomfortable, but I didn't stop. I kept mocking him, calling him weak, saying that he wasn't like the other men in our group. He wasn't manly enough, not in the traditional sense. Then, out of nowhere, Ray stood up, and I'll never forget the look on his face. It wasn't the soft, adoring look I had grown so used to over the years. It was a mix of anger and exhaustion, like he had been holding back for too long and had finally reached his breaking point. His voice cut through the noise of the bar when he told me to shut up. I remember freezing in my seat, the smile dropping off my face instantly. I had never heard him speak to me like that. It was so out of character for him to raise his voice, and for a second, I thought he was just messing with me. But then he said it. He was done with me. He said he couldn't take my constant mocking anymore, that he was sick of being humiliated and belittled. He told me that it was pathetic how I would call him weak when I was the one who depended on him for everything. His voice was firm, full of conviction, and it hit me like a slap in the face. I could feel the eyes of our friends on me, and the air around us became thick with tension. Nobody said a word as Ray went on, telling me that he wanted a divorce, that he was done with being treated like he was nothing. I was too stunned to respond. I just sat there speechless as he walked out of the bar. But before he left, he turned around, reached into his pocket, and pulled out a crumpled set of divorce papers. Divorce papers. I didn't even know they existed, let alone that they'd been sitting in our car all night. He threw them on the table in front of me and walked out without another word, leaving me there in complete shock. It was like someone had flipped a switch. The laughter that had filled the night disappeared, and all of a sudden I sobered up. I could feel the awkwardness settling over the table, the silence stretching out for what felt like hours. My friends were quiet, no one knowing what to say or how to react. I didn't know what to say either. I had never seen Ray like that, so strong, so decisive. I had always thought he was too soft to stand up to me, too in love with me to ever leave. But here he was, walking out of my life like he had been planning this for a long time. I tried to call him immediately after he left, my fingers fumbling with my phone. He didn't pick up. I tried again and again, but it went straight to voicemail every time. That's when I knew he was serious, dead serious. I didn't know what else to do, so I called an Uber and sat in the back seat the whole ride home, replaying everything in my head, trying to figure out where it had all gone wrong. It felt like the ground had just fallen out from under me. When I got home, things got even worse. My stuff, clothes, shoes, bags, everything was out on the porch. I couldn't believe it. Ray had actually thrown all my things out of the house. He'd locked the door, and no matter how hard I banged on it, no matter how many times I called his name, he wouldn't open up. I knew he was in there. I could see the light through the windows, but he didn't respond. It was like I didn't exist to him anymore. I was stranded. I didn't have anywhere else to go. He had even cleared out our joint account, leaving me with nothing. The money I used to pay for the Uber was the last bit of cash I had. I had to call my best friend, crying and begging her to let me stay at her place. She agreed, of course, but I could tell she was just as shocked as I was. Ray had always been the dependable one, the one who would never do something like this. But now, it felt like he had turned into a stranger overnight. It's been days now, and he still won't talk to me. I've sent him text after text, begging him to forgive me, to at least talk to me so we can work things out. I've apologized over and over, but he hasn't responded to a single message. I'm completely lost. I don't know what to do. I never thought Ray would leave me. I never thought he had it in him to walk away. And now, I'm stuck here, alone, with no idea what to do next. Update. Hey Reddit. Wow, the hate. A lot of people keep saying that I fucked around and found out, which honestly is just super annoying at this point. Like, yeah, I get it. I know I screwed up. Yes, I fucked around, and yes, I found out. Trust me, no one is more aware of that than I am right now. But can we move past that, please? I came on here genuinely looking for advice, not to get mocked into oblivion. I understand that I'm at fault. I've admitted that. I know I messed up in a big way, but I didn't come here to get roasted. I came because I need actual advice, something useful that might help me salvage my relationship and my marriage before it's too late. Because as of right now, my husband is literally on the verge of divorcing me, and I don't know what else to do. I've tried everything I can think of. I've already apologized more times than I can count, but that doesn't seem to be enough. My best friend has talked to me. My parents have gotten involved, even his parents. Though honestly, they seemed way too happy about the fact that Ray's divorcing me. They weren't exactly eager to help, if you know what I mean. Almost like they've been waiting for this to happen. Anyway, I've tried talking to Ray. I finally managed to get him to sit down and have an actual conversation with me, but he's not willing to budge on anything. He told me straight up that he wants a divorce and that nothing is going to change his mind. I could bring in the Pope, the Vatican, hell, I could resurrect a saint, and he wouldn't change his mind. I think he even joked about it, to be honest, which just made me feel even worse. How do I fix this when he's being so stubborn? It's like this whole situation started over something that I thought was a joke, something that he even laughed about before. I'm so annoyed and frustrated that everything has escalated to this point. I never thought Ray would actually leave me. I thought we'd just argue and get over it, like we always did. But this time, it feels like he's really done. And that realization is making me feel completely numb. I don't know what to do next. My friend, who has been amazing by the way, has let me stay with her, but I can tell I'm wearing out my welcome. She hasn't said anything, but I can feel the shift. She's tired of my situation, and honestly, I don't blame her. She keeps hinting that I need to figure something out soon, and I'm terrified she's going to kick me out soon because she's got her own life to deal with. I can't depend on her forever. So yeah, I'm at a loss. I don't know what to do. I'm desperate to fix this, but no matter what I try, Ray just won't listen. He won't even entertain the idea of reconciliation. I feel like I'm running out of time and my life is spiraling out of control faster than I can handle. Please, I'm begging you. If you have any actual advice, not just you fucked around and found out comments, I'd appreciate it more than you know. I need help. I don't know what else to do, and I feel like I'm running out of options. I've hit rock bottom, and I'm just trying to figure out how to climb out of this hole I've dug myself into. So, Reddit, please, what do I do now? Update. Hey Reddit, it's been a while since my last update, and honestly, that's because I've been really busy, just not in a good way. Life has been pretty much a mess since everything went down with Ray. After my last post, I had to move out of my friend's place. We ended up getting into a fight, and she just kept going on about how I was at fault for everything and how I deserved the fact that Ray was divorcing me. It got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore, so I left. Don't get me wrong, I still appreciate everything she did for me. She gave me a place to stay when I had nowhere else to go, but after that argument, I couldn't stick around. It was too much, and I didn't need someone constantly reminding me that I messed up. I already know that. Now I'm back at my parents' house, which has been, well, it's been something. I've spent most of my time just wallowing in my misery, if you get what I mean. It feels like I'm stuck in this endless cycle of regret and sadness, and it's exhausting. To top it off, I got served with divorce papers so fast. Like, I don't understand how it happened so quickly. The fact that Ray had those papers ready to go makes me think that he must have been planning this for a while. And now that I look back, it's obvious that he'd been pulling away for some time. I can't help but wonder, if the incident at the bar hadn't happened, would he still have given me those divorce papers? Or would he have changed his mind if I'd done a complete 180 and really worked on my attitude? I mean, I've had a lot of time to think about it, and I regret everything. Every single moment where I belittled him or didn't take him seriously. But now it's too late, and everything is moving so quickly. It feels like my entire life is spiraling out of control, and I don't know what to do. Being at my parents' house is no picnic either. They're constantly reminding me that I deserve what's happening. Every day, it's like I'm being hit with a new wave of judgment. They keep telling me how I brought this on myself, and honestly, I'm just so tired of hearing it. I already know I made mistakes, but it feels like everyone is against me. I can't catch a break. It's like no matter where I turn, I'm met with judgment and reminders of how badly I screwed up. And while I understand why people are saying that, because let's be real, I did this to myself, it doesn't make it any easier to deal with. I'm trying to figure out how to move forward, but it feels impossible when I'm constantly being reminded of my failures. I don't know what to do anymore. Ray is moving on with this divorce, and I'm stuck here, feeling like my entire world is collapsing around me. I'm tired, frustrated, and honestly just overwhelmed. Everyone seems to think that I deserve this, and maybe they're right. But that doesn't change the fact that I'm still trying to figure out what comes next for me. Anyway, that's where I'm at right now. Things are still a mess, and I'm trying to navigate through it. It feels like everything is happening so fast, and I'm just scrambling to keep up. If anyone has any advice, real advice, not just more judgment, I could really use it right now. I'm just trying to find some sort of direction in all this chaos. Update. It's been a long while since my last update. If you're just stumbling upon this post, feel free to check my post history for some context on everything that's happened. Honestly, I stopped updating for a bit because I was just tired. What's the point of sharing when everyone seems to hate me? All I've seen in the comments is how I deserved this, how it's all my fault, and even people saying they're happy Ray is divorcing me. It's been overwhelming, and I just didn't want to keep exposing myself to that negativity. But I feel like I owe you all a final update, a way to say goodbye to this chapter in my life. So here I am, updating for the last time. First off, I'm still at my parents' house. If you noticed, it's been months since I last posted, and the divorce has been finalized. It all moved so quickly. Honestly, it felt like we were just waiting for the right moment to pull the trigger on it. The process was swift, and I ended up with nothing. We'd only been married for a short time. No kids, no debts to split. Everything was his, and nothing was mine. I managed to keep a few items of sentimental value, but in terms of financial stability, I'm completely broke. Now, I'm divorced and a complete mess. I've sunk into a deep depression, and I miss my husband more than I ever thought I would. I regret everything. The weight of my actions feels unbearable, and I constantly replay moments in my head, wishing I could go back and change how I treated him. To make matters worse, I've lost about 90% of my friends. They all chose Ray's side, which only adds to my sense of isolation. I keep thinking about how I could have been better, how I failed him, and how I wish I had never made those jokes or mocked him. Ray wasn't weak. He was stronger than I could have ever realized. It's painful to accept that I pushed him away. I doubt I'll update again because the comments here can be brutal. Some made me laugh, but most just brought me to tears and forced me to reevaluate my situation. It's hard to admit, but maybe I deserve some of that criticism, so that's where I'm at. I'm not sure what the future holds for me, but I needed to share this final update as I close this chapter. Thank you to those who offered support along the way, even if it was hard to hear. I wish things had turned out differently.
Nothing is ever as it seems, and I think I'm the perfect definition of that. I don't even think there'll be a single person in my comment section who's going to be on my side. I'm doing something that I know no one will support, but I just can't stop. I've come this far to get something, and I don't want to lose the opportunity to have it. Maybe I'm the perfect definition of what people call a gold digger, and I think I'll not stop being one anytime soon. I'm desperate, and that's what made me get married to my husband in the first place. My name is Michelle, and I'm a 31-year-old woman who works at a fashion store. I live in Los Angeles, California, and I only moved here after getting married to my husband. I am married to Simon, a 40-years-old realtor agent, and we have been married for approximately 2 years now. I come from a very poor background, and I have struggled to feed my whole life. Nothing ever came to me without paying a price, and that's how I landed a realtor agent as a husband. I sound like a fool, and to be honest, I think I am one. But if being a fool would make me survive in this cruel world, there's nothing I'll not do to survive. I didn't just meet Simon and get married to him. I literally had to pay a price to be with him. It's like the same situation with how I've struggled in life. It's a trade by batter situation. I'm not claiming to be a good person because I know that I am far from it. I am an opportunist who has tried her best to climb her way up. There's nothing good and innocent about me. When I first met Simon, he had a girlfriend. I just met him because he came to the town where I used to live with some of his friends on a camping trip. I know one of the people who works close to the place they visited to camp, so it was very easy for me to meet him. I didn't attend college by then. I was supposed to have finished college, but I was still a high school graduate who worked several jobs to earn. When I heard that a group of rich guys were visiting, I decided to grab the opportunity. What better way to get rich than marry rich? I didn't even pay attention to Simon at first because he was the least attractive of all the guys present. He had a dorky look with unkempt beards. He is also the oldest of the group, so I never wanted to go for him. One of his friends looked quite attractive, so I decided to go after him. I started visiting the camping site almost every day, but none of them seemed to notice me. I also discovered that they were all married except Simon. I wasn't surprised because he wasn't someone I'd go for on a regular day, but I was desperate and decided to make a move. Long story short, I was able to befriend him and get his phone number. Unfortunately, they went back to LA almost 1 week later. I still had his phone number, but I was no longer interested till I was told that he is a realtor agent. That made me more determined, and I started calling him every day. I still have a lot to say, so I'll cut the story short. He hooked a flight for me after 2 months of talking online, and then I visited him in Los Angeles. We started dating for a while, and then I introduced him to my brothers after he followed me back to my town. Like I said, he's 40 years old and seemed desperate to get married. After just 6 months of dating, he proposed after meeting my whole family. I agreed on the condition that he found me a job in New York. He agreed and also gave me a condition before we had any children. He said we could only have children after we lasted 4 years of marriage. I didn't get why he wanted that, but I agreed because, like I said, I was desperate. One weird thing Simon did before we got married is that he made sure I took several tests to determine my blood group, genotype, and other medical terminologies I cannot seem to call. I know it's normal to test with each other, but his tests were extreme. But, like I said, I had no choice than to marry the old man. I'm not even sure he's 40. Maybe he's lying about his age. He looks 50. After getting married to Simon, I realized that the grass is not really greener on the other side. He'd met my whole family and had his opinions about all of them before marrying me. But I only met his sisters and uncles at the wedding. I didn't see his parents. I asked why, and he just told me that I shouldn't worry about it. Well, I realized that Simon and his parents are not on good terms, and all the aggression seemed to be thrown on me. 2 years ago, I was just a 29-year-old woman who just wanted to settle down. I wasn't ready for the burden of a family rivalry, but I had no choice because I was practically thrown into it. How would I describe Simon as a husband? Terrible. He has to be the worst husband any woman should want. That man is very selfish and self-centered. When I married him, I thought I'd be able to get a life of comfort and luxury. But I'm not getting any of that. He has the money, but he just chooses not to spend it. The only thing he has done for me since we got married is find me the job I asked for. I began to get extremely desperate because I just had limited resources. I realized that he just married me, so his parents would stop taunting him with his single life. I also wondered why he didn't marry some of his colleagues, but I've realized that it's because he wanted a girl like me who would agree to do anything just because of his title, a realtor agent. Like I said, I didn't graduate from college. In fact, I never even went to college. Simon is aware of that because I told him a miserable life story in the hopes that it would make him have compassion for me and marry me faster. Well, he did marry me, but not out of compassion. He married me because he wanted an uneducated wife like me that could sign her rights for money. Simon is out there living his life and traveling because he is in, quote, a realtor agent. We hardly sleep together because he wants to make sure I don't get pregnant. I used to wonder why he didn't like the idea of me getting pregnant, but I recently realized that it's because he doesn't want me to have a child with him now and then divorce him before asking for child support and spousal support. That's why he made it clear that I must not get pregnant till we lasted 4 years of marriage. He wants to stay married to Simon for 4 years? Me? I'm not ready to stay married to that man for 4 good years. I know he might divorce me after 4 years. His parents are another thorn in my flesh. They keep asking me why I don't have a college degree and why I'm not pregnant yet. Sometimes, his mother even asks me if her son hired me to be his wife. Let's get back to my so-called husband, Simon. That man has played with my intelligence, and I know it. The job he got for me is all I have. He doesn't listen to me when I ask for money. He just gives me a couple of dollars, and then that's all. Nothing else. So much for marrying a realtor agent. What's the difference? I got tired, and I knew that I had to do something fast. I told myself that there was nowhere in this life or next that I will let myself stay married to Simon for 4 years without having anything to show for it. There are more good-looking men out there, and I could have gotten married to them. But I chose him for a reason, and that's why I refused to take a back seat. I might not be a college graduate, but I believe that my instincts and intuition would take me far. Simon never ceases an opportunity to tell me how I would have never gotten a job if he didn't make his friend hire me without a college degree. I'm ready to show that man that I'll do something so great that even a multiple degree holder like him would never beat me. Update. Wow, I don't think I've ever seen so much hate in a comment section like I'm seeing in mine. What did I do wrong? I'm an opportunist, and I didn't deny that. I also didn't come here and pretend like I was a saint that fell from the sky. I know I'm wrong in certain things, but so is Simon. He's also an opportunist and a very greedy one at that. Why else would he get married to a high school graduate and then tell her he doesn't want children? We're both in the wrong boat together. The only difference is that I'm the one at the receiving end of it. Thankfully, few people supported my ideology, even though they didn't agree to some of the things I said. It's all fine, and I believe that one way or another, I'll be able to get to the finish line without support. If I want to get out of the marriage with something substantial, having a child is important, but so far, Simon has not wavered in his decision to not have children yet. I know he cheats on me because he is hardly ever home, and when it's time for us to get together, he uses protection a lot. He also gives me the pills immediately. I'm tired of the same routine, and I don't want him to outsmart me. I'm ready to have a child, and even though it's not going to be for Simon, so be it. That was the decision I made before I realized that there was every possibility that Simon would find out I had a child for another man. He's smart, and I know there's no way he'd not try to get a DNA test as soon as the child is born. I just decided to have fun and see where that takes me. I was tired of sitting around the house only to be disturbed by his parents and interviewed on every single topic while he lives his life under the pretext of work. I don't care if he's actually working. I'm tired of working once in a while and doing things continuously in a boring routine. I'm going to start pretending like I'm no longer a married woman because I need to have options left for when Simon suddenly wakes up and decides to divorce me. I don't want to go back to a life of striving. I've asked Simon to put me into college, but he's not ready to do that. He keeps coming up with several stupid excuses, and I am just tired. Nobody has time for that, and I'm certainly not going to trust a selfish man like him with my life. There's no way that's going to be possible. Update. Hi guys, it's time for an update, lol. I almost feel like I'm running a reality TV show because of how much information about my life that I'm putting out here. I guess I can't fault myself for asking advice and seeking the opinion of other people. Trust me when I say this, except a person was drunk or drugged. Cheating is a conscious decision, and it's something that's usually planned for months before its actual action. How do I know this? Well, I'm currently using myself as the test subject in this case, and I now understand a lot of things. I want to cheat on my husband. It's intentional, and I want to do it because Simon is one of the people who is making my life very difficult now. That man has tried his best to tie me down. I don't want to live that kind of life. I thought he'd put me into college the moment I accepted to marry him. I also want to go to school and be educated. If he is not ready to do that for me, shouldn't I look elsewhere? He married me with ulterior motives, just like I married him with ulterior motives. The both of us are to blame, but I don't think he even knows that yet. Just yesterday, he came back from work and he looked very tired. Like the dutiful wife Jay was forced to become, I prepared something for him to eat. Because most of the people in the comments section tried their best to make me look like a bad person. I decided that it would be nice if I tested Simon one more time. Deep down, I knew nothing would change, but I was easy to try, just because I wanted to prove you all wrong. Long story short, I asked him about enrolling me in college all over again. I know that he had the money, and I can bet a lot of things that he doesn't need to break his bank to send me to college. Why then did he want to limit the amount of things he gave me? Well, I realized that his reason for doing that is because he doesn't want to give me enough things so that I would not end up running away. Maybe he is aware that I might end up leaving him at the end of the day, so he is trying to make sure that he doesn't spend too much or risk too much. I'm sure that the both of us are playing a very risky game, and I just hope that neither of us is ready to back down. After talking to him and getting disappointed yesterday, I decided to make the conscious decision to just go straight to the point and do what I've always wanted to do. There's a person at my workplace that's trying to flirt with me, but I've never given that person a second look. One of my reasons for doing that is because that person is also my colleague at work. Why would I want to date my colleague? We earn the same thing and both of us are trying to survive. Why would I want to risk everything by dating someone like that? I wasn't ready to have that kind of conversation yet, so I decided that it was best to be wise. I wanted to make sure that whatever I'm risking my marriage for is better than my marriage. My marriage is already sham, and to be honest, I've wanted out of this marriage for months. I want to divorce Simon and go back to my town, because the only thing he has given me is a job and a roof over my head. Those are the only reasonable things he has given me all through the marriage. If I leave him today, there would be no difference because I had no idea I was getting married to a very stingy man. If I had known then, I would not have made the mistake of getting married to him in the first place. Now, about the person at my workplace, I think it's also risky because I could get caught if I am not careful. Simon gave me that job through his friend who knows the owner of the fashion store. There's every possibility that he has been trying to keep an eye on me, and it would be really unfortunate if I let myself right into his trap. That would give him a reason to divorce me without a single thought, and I don't want that yet. I'm only holding on to the marriage because I want to make sure that I didn't waste the past 2 years of my life. I don't want a situation where I'll end up leaving the marriage broke. It would make me really upset if I leave the marriage without anything at the end of the day. I didn't marry a realtor agent that was about 9 years older than me just to be treated like crap. That was not in my bingo card at all. That's why I'm making sure that I calculate my every love and never fall into a trap. It would be unfortunate for me to realize that in the process of trying to outsmart Simon, I ended up putting myself and everything I've endured at risk. I would hate myself for that, and I don't want that at all. So I'm just here, guys. I'm waiting for that rich man that would finally get interested in me. I don't plan on waiting forever because my patience is very low and I don't want to waste my life away. That's it for today, guys. I'll see you all in a while. Update. Your favorite gold digger is back again. Just like you all like to address me in the comments section. Many people think I'm this big gold digger with no brain at all. Well, I don't actually blame the people calling me that because it was I myself that called myself a gold digger in the first place. I'm now getting called several names. It's not like I never expected it, but wow, people can be extremely rude when they want to. It's the way they don't even care about my feelings or how I ended up feeling at the end of the day. Well, I guess my feelings aren't valid as long as I'm a gold digger, lol. Before moving on, I just want to say that the comments have been cracking me up quite literally. It's been insane. So, life with Simon has been the same and there's been no change at all. I knew that I'd be a fool to think that a man as smart as him would suddenly try to act all sweet and stuff. I think the past few days have revealed to me that Simon is actually a very intelligent man. I think he is aware that he married a woman that only looked at him twice because of his job and money. He knows that, and I guess that's one of the reasons he's making sure that we don't have a child till we're A or two last 2 more years. If not for my desperation back then, I would have never actually married him because I didn't know that I was signing up for this. I expected more from him, and I thought that I'd caught a big fish, lol. So Simon traveled just 2 days ago for one of his job trips. He's a realtor agent, so he naturally has to travel to do his work. Before I used to get white angry that he always traveled and left me at home. Before we got married, I asked him if his job required him to travel a lot, and he denied it. In fact, he told me that he wouldn't even travel up to 10 times a year. He played me in that regard because now I know that he travels up to 10 times a month, and I don't get why he never told me that ahead of time. But when he traveled this time, I was actually very happy because I'd been hoping he'd travel and just leave me at home. When he left, Anne had a glass of champagne to celebrate, because anytime he was at the house, I literally had to trample on eggshells and act like a whole different person because I didn't want to raise any suspicions. My brothers came to LA last week, and they've been asking to see me, but I kept telling them that I was not in town. The main reason I did that was because I didn't want them to see Simon. Not because I want them to hate him, but because I know Simon doesn't care for any of them. He made that clear even before we got married. He clearly told me that he feels like my brothers are lazy and that they just spend all their time at the camping site doing nothing serious. I didn't say anything to him because I knew that he had no clue what kind of work my brothers have done just to survive. It's easy for a person like him with so much money to think that life is just all about traveling as a realtor agent. My brothers were the ones taking care of me for a very long time, even though they didn't attend college too. Our parents didn't have money to send us to college, so we just lived life like that. At some point in our lives, we were the ones that began to provide for our parents. Do I hold any grudges? Not at all, because I know that they tried the best to provide for us. It's just that life isn't easy for everybody. I know that Simon would not hesitate to say something that would bring my brothers down mentally, and that's why I think it's best that they avoid each other. I didn't want Simon anywhere near my brothers, and I don't want my brothers anywhere near Simon. I feel like life would be extremely easier if we just followed this protocol. So, I met up with my brothers today, and we talked a lot. I asked why they were in LA, and they just told me that it was for some work. I was happy to know that my brothers were doing well for themselves. They had to live today, so our conversations were quite short. They picked up on my mood, even though I tried to smile all through. I just lied and told them I was having period cramps. They knew nothing about that, so they believed me. When I got back home, I decided that it was best to update you all first before I made my next move. One of my brother's friends in LA invited me to his house party, and I actually plan on going. What do you guys think? I know this is the perfect opportunity to meet people and do. I'm really interested in grabbing the opportunity. I'm not going to update fast, like I've been going, because I think it's best to just update you all at once. I'll update as soon as I can, but it's not going to be as fast as the rest. Update. I cheated on my husband, guys, and now I think I might be pregnant. Yes, you all read that right. Where do I even start from, and how do I begin to explain my predicament to you guys? It's been hectic and quite confusing, especially for me. I thought things would be easier and I would not take myself by surprise since I'm the one actually planning everything and it's not a freestyle. But I think I underestimated how fast things could change in the blink of an eye. It's actually very crazy and I can't wait to tell you all my predicament right now. So I went to the party I was invited to, just like I told you guys. I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to do something crazy, so I didn't think twice before doing what I wanted to do. The party was not what I expected at all. I thought it was going to be a wild house party with several drinks and an unhealthy amount of snacks. Well, it wasn't that way at all, and it really surprised me. I think one of the reasons I was so gasped up for that party, because it was one of my brother's friends that invited me, and I knew him from our town before. He was quite wild and very dramatic, so I expected his party to get that way, but unfortunately for me, that was not the case at all. I think it's fair to say that I got the shock of my life when I realized that his part was quite classy and sophisticated. I was not impressed at all, because I wasn't really interested in a party that didn't have crazy drinks and an enormous amount of food. I wanted to let loose and just travel back in time to the days when I used to party with my brothers in our town. It was really fun, and I missed those parties. Since I came to LA, there were no more parties like that I could attend because Simon was like a watchdog that fell from the sky just to keep an eye on me. Anyways, I still wanted to have fun at the party, so I didn't let anything make me stop. I didn't see the person that invited me for some time, so I just decided to look around and take a look at things for myself. That was just what I wanted to do at the beginning. But something stalking happened, and I actually met a guy that looked like money. When I tell you all he looked like money, I'm not exaggerating. His suit and everything he wore screamed money. But I didn't quite understand why a guy like that would want to wear a suit to a house party. I mean, who wants to wear a suit to a house party? Is that even normal at all? Well, I guess it is, because he was not the only one I spotted in a suit. They all looked like people who knew what they were doing with their lives. The music was very slow, and I think it was opera music that was playing in the background. It was nothing extra like that kind of music that just makes your eardrum throb. It was at that moment that I figured out that I was probably at a party for rich men. I became curious because I wanted to ask the person that invited me how he knew so many rich people. When I finally saw him and I asked him the question that had been eating me up, he just told me that he had gotten a job that pays well after he moved to LA, and that's how he got to buy a house. He also told me that most of the people present were his colleagues at work. That was what finally put me at ease, because I'd been worried that he was running some kind of scam, lol. The guy I told you all about didn't interact with other people much. He just stood at one place, sipping champagne and looking at some of the artworks on the wall. I approached and engaged him in a conversation. I was very nervous at first because I didn't want to end up embarrassing myself in front of so many people. That's why I initially tried to see if I could just start a random conversation without causing commotion. It actually worked, and then we started talking. At first I started flirting with him, then pretended like it was the fault of the wine I had in hand. We spoke for a long time, and at some point we exchanged contacts. I took a lot of wine and the little alcohol available because I needed that drunk courage. It had been a long while since I tried doing what I had been doing at the party, so I was very anxious at first. At the end of the day, we left the party together. My brother's friend actually pulled me to the side to ask me why I was going out of the party room with a guy. He was aware of the fact that I am married, so he wanted to know what I was thinking. I just told him that it was nothing serious, and that I'd speak to him another time. I could tell that he was really worried, and he offered to call my brothers, but I refused. He left me alone after that, and then I went back to meet the guy. We went to a hotel that night, and we spent the night together. I didn't expect to feel the level of guilt I felt the next morning. I guess I'm human after all, and I had to feel some type of way. We did use protection that night, and I was sure of it because I saw it in the bin. Me and that guy saw each other very frequently after that, and we hooked up a lot. I don't want to call his name for personal reasons. He gave me gifts and even offered to find a job for me. At that point, he didn't even know I was married at all. Simon seemed to spend forever on his trip, so I used that opportunity to hang out with the guy I met at the party. There were some times when he wouldn't use protection, but I didn't think that if suddenly just got pregnant. I always imagined that people had to actually put in effort and try before getting pregnant. I just realized that's not true and that every woman has a different body type. I suspect that I might be pregnant because I didn't see my monthly flow this month. Simon just got back yesterday, and I'm really scared. I don't know what to do at all because this isn't in my bingo card. What do I say to Simon and what do I say to the guy I'm pregnant for? Would he believe that the baby I'm carrying is his when he finds out that I'm married? Help me, guys. I haven't taken a pregnancy test yet, so I'm not 100% sure, but I'm still scared. I haven't missed my menstrual flow like this ever before, and it makes sense that I'm pregnant. That's the only reasonable explanation. I think I'm really done for at this point. Update. Well, my fears have proven to be reality, and I am now left with nothing. Even after all the things I tried to do to make sure that I didn't end up like I ended up now, I still got what many people think I deserved. I took the pregnancy test because I was actually very scared, and I wanted to know the truth as soon as possible. The tests revealed that I was pregnant. I still went to the hospital to check, and I was proved to be pregnant. I had to go back home and think of what to do. I decided to go tell my affair partner first. He was surprised that I was pregnant, and he was also surprised that I was married. He accused me of trying to trap him with another woman's pregnancy, and then he broke things off with me. Yes, he literally told me it was over and that he never wanted to see me again. I almost fainted and gave up, but I had to tell myself that I couldn't just let something like that weigh me down. I left his place after getting rejected. He didn't even listen to me after I begged him continuously. Jane Yard just sent me away just like that, and I had no choice than to leave. I went home, and I gave Simon the pregnancy test results. I told him I was pregnant, and then he laughed straight into my face. He told me there was no way that was possible, and I asked him how he could be so sure. I consistently told him that I was pregnant, and yet he told me I had to be lying or he was not the father. I didn't even try to back down. I refused to back down and let him win. I challenged him and asked him to prove why he was not the father when I was married to him, and we slept together like couples did. He told me he always used protection, and I asked him why that gave him so much assurance when protection was not 100% reliable sometimes, and there was a possibility of the protection tearing up. I called him a simp for thinking he could bully me into rejecting a pregnancy that was his. I said he had to be stupid if he thought he could deny the pregnancy. I called him all sorts of names, and I said he wasn't even man enough to accept his own child, and that he was scared of taking responsibility. That was the first time I raised my voice at him, and it was initially because I had a lot of pent-up anger and wanted to vent. I thought those harsh words would soften him up and make him accept the pregnancy. But instead, I was shocked by his reply. He told me that the pregnancy couldn't be his because he had gotten a vasectomy long ago, and that he did so because he didn't want me to come up with stories that were fake. I was very surprised, and it was at that moment that I realized that I had been caught red-handed, and there was really no going back. I should have pinned the pregnancy on him when I knew just how smart he was. I asked him why he always used protection when he knew he had a vasectomy, and then he told me he wanted to have 2 backups. That same day, he sent me out of the house, and I was served with divorce papers 2 weeks later. I signed it without a second thought because I knew that there was no way I could drag it out. The divorce can only be finalized after I give birth, and he's proven to not be the father. His parental rights would be revoked, and he will not need to pay for child support. That's just how smart Simon is. Update. I can't believe it's almost been a year already. Since I was busy pregnant, I didn't have a lot of time to process things. I gave birth 2 months ago to a baby girl, and the DNA tests were conducted. He was proven to not be the father, and his parental rights were revoked. He doesn't owe me child support anymore. Even after everything I did, I was still left with nothing in the long run. I tried looking for my affair partner again, but he has made it impossible to reach him. I'm now a broke single mother with 2 mouths to feed. Karma did hit me hard, and Simon left me with nothing. The only money I have now is the money from the savings I got from the fashion store. I got fired, by the way. Simon made sure he didn't let me go just like that. I guess the gold digger is now left with no gold to dig. I feel like I got what was coming for me. There's no way I can pin this on another person, even though I hold some grudges. You win some and you lose some.